You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks. Well, happy Saturday morning. It is just a few minutes past the hour right here, and we are on KLRNradio.com, and that means it is time for Finding Common Ground. We're about 3 weeks away from the conclusion of Dumpster Fire 2016. The Question is the fire going to go out or is it going to turn into a nuclear mushroom cloud? Only time will tell. I'm joined by one of my usual co-hosts around these parts, Mr. Bryce Robbins, the typical left chair. We also have a very special surprise guest who I'm going to let come on and announce herself now.
Hi, Bryce. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
It's great to be with you.
Oh,
and as
good to have you.
And he wasn't quite up at performance today. I decided to surprise you and spin.
All right. The audio keeps going in and out, but I can hear you, I think, now.
Yeah, I keep hearing stuff in the audio.
All right. Yeah, I think I can hear you now. All right. So awesome. Sweet. So, what did you want to talk about today?
Well, I know you'd want to talk about the allegations against Trump.
Did you say the allegations against Trump? I couldn't quite hear you.
Guys, hang on, guys. This may not be working very well because I don't think my hamsters can keep up with two separate accounts, which is what I was kind of afraid of.
Okay, no problem.
Drop off and call me back?
Yeah, I'll try to call you back on the other one. Hang on a second. Hey, Bryce, I'm going to dump you too so I can just get you guys back on the other account that I know is more stable.
No problem. Hello?
Okay, so we have you back. One sec while we grab Jess, and we'll get you guys back on the same account. Then hopefully we don't have the disruptions we were having a second ago.
Sounds good.
I just wanted to test that because I haven't tried to use the two account setup in a while, and I've now discovered my countrified setup can't handle it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
All right, so I think we have everybody back now. Jess, you back?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Oh, that's much better.
Okay, yeah, you guys aren't getting nearly the disruption you were getting a second ago. The country hamster internet can't keep up with two accounts apparently. So,
all right.
Back to what you guys were talking about. Knock yourselves out.
All right, Jess, where were we? We were going to talk about. I actually kind of blanked out. What do you want to talk about?
I was going to say I'll let you start. Do you know your show with Rick? So I'll let you start.
Sure. All right. So something I found to be very interesting this week was the campaigning from the Obamas for Hillary Clinton, and watching Michelle Obama's speech. Wow, I mean, that was just incredible. And Donald Trump is really just shooting himself in the foot this week, and I think that I would be surprised to see if he gets what % of the white woman vote he gets, or white Republican woman vote he gets. I think it was Mitt Romney got like 89%, so I am curious to see how well he does with it, because it doesn't look like he's going to do that well. But your thoughts?
Well, he may or he may not. He has it. I will admit Trump has alienated certain portions of the population. However, how many people are closet Trump supporters and just don't want to admit it because of all the backlash from various other people? That's my question. And only Election Day will tell us that.
See, that is true. I actually went to it was like a I guess a table talk or whatever, and what's his name? From MSNBC. Now, Chuck Todd was hosting it, and there were all these analysts talking, and they said that there is a hidden Trump vote, possibly, but they're also talking about the hidden Hillary vote. They said that there's all these trends that they get on their, news feeds, titled like "Don't tell my husband I'm voting for Hillary" and stuff like that. So I'm curious for both sides to see where this hidden vote more or less aligns, and who will come out to the polls for who. And I'm also curious to see, will this be big voter turnout? Will people say, oh, Hillary's going to win, so don't go? Or are they going to say Hillary needs to win, go? At least from my side of the aisle. Because we're seeing voter registration, at least in Florida, in numbers we haven't seen in a very, very long time. So
I will also say there has been a push, particularly by the Democrats, to register illegal immigrants as voters.
I have not heard about that.
Yes, it has been in the news. Let me see if I can pull the information up.
Yeah, I really never heard about illegal immigrants voter registration, and I don't think the Democratic Party has been behind that. I mean, that has not been on the news, but I guess the news chooses what it wants to promote. But even after looking that up, I have not found anything. Trump suggested that, but Trump also suggests a lot of things, so I wouldn't be too quick to use that.
No, I didn't get it from Trump. I actually got it from a media source outside the United States completely.
Well, I mean, I'm reading from the Washington Post that Trump suggested that illegal immigrants will vote as parties clash over voter access.
I got the story about illegal immigrants being registered to vote from first from Al Jazeera, then from Iranian News, and then from BBC. And if you think any of those news outlets have a single say in this election or a single dog in the fight, sorry, I don't think so.
I'm just going to ask you to send me over that link because I have not read anything. I can't even find anything of that sort. So I don't even know how to argue that. But I would strongly assume that the Democrats are not registering illegal immigrants to vote. Be it that Democrats don't register people, it's counties and municipalities that do, county clerk's office, wherever you may live. So I don't see how, people could sign you up. It doesn't mean you're going to get.
What's happening is because there are in a lot of states when you get your driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote, and a lot of places are actually saying that, this is a problem now, but it didn't used to be. But now with the number of illegals now that illegals are eligible for driver's licenses, maybe it shouldn't be an automatic thing. When you get a driver's license, you're also registered to vote.
Actually, I recently posted on Facebook something similar to the effect of what you're saying. And I am curious more or less why we are not all registered to vote when we are born and at 18, or put into the voter registration when we are born and at 18 you can become active. And that's already being done in Oregon. I don't understand why that's not currently a thing.
I've got my friend and co-host on Conversations in Science, Dr. Judy L. Moore, is a citizen of New Zealand. And in that country, when you turn 18, you're automatically registered.
Yeah, I don't see why it's not like that in this country. And to be honest, I recently had to do both my absentee ballot. I had to mail out for that, and I had to register myself for the selective service, or what was formerly known as the draft. And I just find it very interesting how easy our government makes it to sign up for the military and the armed forces, how they poach children right out of high school. I remember the Marines were in our high school, I think it was like every other Friday. But
okay, I'll warn you. Remember who you're talking to. Poaching children?
Well, I'm just saying there was nobody there for voter registration at all. It seems as though it's much easier to join the Army than it is to sign up to vote. And especially in minority, towns and municipalities, it's a little interesting a little suspect, I will say, how easy the government makes it to join the armed forces than it is to vote. And I think that, voting, like automatic registration at 18 unless you opt out. I think that is something to look at. And I think that it's interesting how this dynamic works, I think. But, think about it. There are people who are getting targeted starting at 14, 15, 16, 17 to make one of the biggest decisions of their lives, to possibly lose their life defending this country. But there's nobody to register you there to vote. And I just find that very fascinating. I think it's a very weird dynamic that our country has.
First of all, the United States Armed Forces has active duty members whose whole job is to recruit.
No, I know. Yeah, recruitment officers.
Election boards, election councils have no such people. Now, I will say the military also goes out of its way to make sure that those same soldiers are registered and have an opportunity to vote. It's been all over. For those of you who are new to listening to me, I live on a United States military base. It's been all over base with deadlines about the different states. There's something called the Federal Voter Assistance Program. Literally, if I say I'd forgotten to order my absentee ballot, there is a way I can still vote up until election day because of the Federal Voter Assistance Program, and I'm eligible for it because I'm a military member or a spouse.
Well, I'm not talking about specifically military members. I'm talking about how the dichotomy between registering people for the Army and the military and registering people for voting. There's a big difference in which one seems to take priority in high schools, and I think that that's wrong. I really think that asking a kid to make a decision such as to join the armed forces at such a young age, but not having the chance to sign up to vote or the availability is difficult. And I'll be honest, when I went to register to vote, it actually was a little bit of a confusing process, and I don't think that everybody necessarily could figure that out as quick. I had to go to the county office. I know you could mail it in and print it out online and then mail it in, but then you have to make sure that it got in, and it's not as easy, it seems. But I don't know. I think voting in this country is made hard, and I was actually just thinking the other week, because I heard online someone saying, name one racist law, and I think it was a clip from Sean Hannity, because someone said the word systemic racism, and they said, all right, well then, name one racist law. Name one racist law. But if we look at voting laws in this country, it seems as though they are inherently to bar people. And it seems that this country has always more or less been about barring certain people from voting, whether it was women, poll taxes, African Americans, Asians, and now it seems that voter ID laws and whatnot are barring people from the vote. So as we come closer to the election, I'm wondering who will be barred from voting.
Okay, first of all, I know many another country that require a photo ID to vote. Mm-hmm. Many. And I'm going to pick on New Zealand again because I've had many conversations with Dr. Judy Elmore, a.k.a. Doc or Judy, about this very thing. And in New Zealand, you have to have photo ID to vote. Now,
okay, yeah.
Hang on, let me finish. Now, you are automatically registered at 18, which is something I agree with. Secondly, the government does provide you your first photo ID for free. Now, I am going to say that I do agree with having a photo ID to vote. However, I also feel that states should make a photo ID, not a driver's license, but a photo ID available for free to all their citizens. And there are states that have gone out of their way to attempt to do this. As far as that being discriminatory, you're talking to a person who just to drive to my home, say I've been out shopping at Walmart and I come back to my home, I have to show a photo ID, a government issued photo ID, just to get back to my house. If I go shopping on post, I've got to show an ID. So A, I don't understand people who run around without a photo ID. B, I don't get the big deal in carrying a photo ID. And C, you need a photo ID to buy alcohol. You need a photo ID to buy tobacco. You should have a photo ID to register for welfare benefits. So why is it such a big deal? If you need a photo ID for all these other items, why is it such a big deal to produce one at the polling place?
So to answer that, and that's what I wanted to say was, in some cases, in certain states, they don't accept various forms of ID. One that I found out to be kind of interesting, I think Rick and I talked about this, is they don't accept your student ID, but certain, bars will accept your student ID as as a photo for drinking, because it'll say the year in which you graduate on it. So, there was a certain caveat with what you said about New Zealand, is they provide you with an ID. If our country started providing everybody with, a state ID, it was required by the federal government that each state has to produce a ID for each person for free, and they can get it. Fine. Then require it at the polling stations. But the problem is that, there was that one law, I think it was in North Carolina, that was struck down by their state Supreme Court, that said it was almost surgically targeting African Americans with IDs that they would not have, for programs that they would not be involved in. And, I honestly feel as though this is just a continued attempt to keep out minority voters based from state legislatures. And it just seems to be that unless we do what New Zealand does, which I agree with, if you want to have voter ID laws, fine. But then you have to give people the IDs. It's like what I say with abortion. If you want to get rid of abortion, fine. But then you have to provide people with birth control. It's not one or the other. So to start voter ID laws but not give people IDs is almost unfair. And as we're seeing in some states, it seems to be unfair.
I just checked my wallet just out of amusement here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I have not one, not two, but 3 valid forms of federal or state-issued photo ID in my wallet. And I just, I have my wallet because I got up and got dressed this morning. It is, for me, I pick up my wallet, I wear my wallet, as soon as I put on my jeans, there goes my wallet right with me. Mm-hmm. And I have not one, not two, but 3 valid forms of photo ID. Not to mention, of course, being a military spouse, I have a passport. Now, I'm not going to say everybody needs a passport, okay? That's above and beyond. I will go there. But there are states that have had their voter laws struck down, even though not only were they willing to provide, if you were born in that state, they're willing to provide you your birth certificate for free. They even set up mobile ID centers that would go out into the communities where they knew it was harder for people to get into reach. And they were doing the photo ID, not driver's license, mind you, but basic state photo ID for free. Now, my mother lived with me for a number of years, and I'm not going to go into for actually a number of months because of medical issues. Her driver's license had expired. I had to get her a state-issued photo ID just so she could have something to prove who she was. I was able to get her that photo ID for the cost of $10 in the state I was in. Now, yes, there was a charge. However, I was able to get that photo ID for her in about 40 minutes in the state I was living in at the time, and have the whole process wrapped up in about 40 minutes. And all I had, I just had to take the required documents down to the right location, and we had to fill out a little bit of paperwork. She had to get her picture taken. Now, I don't think the government should automatically mail out photo IDs when you turn 18. I do think they should be available, and I do think each state should be required to provide you your first one. Now, if it's a driver's license, I think you should have to pay an additional fee because it's a driver's license. But if it is a plain state photo ID card, I think your first one should be free. And in the state I got her ID card in, it was valid for not 4 years like a driver's license might be. It was valid for 10.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is you even said that you paid for it. Now, to me, that sounds more or less like charging people to vote.
I also said that I believe states should provide your first photo ID.
Oh no, I agree with that. Then we're on common ground with that. But I also want to add in from the ACLU a little statistic here that says that 18% of Americans over the age of 65 and nearly 25% of African American citizens do not have government-issued IDs when compared to 8% of white counterparts when compared to the African Americans. And it was 18% for people over the age of 65. So, I just find it as though, and then if you can read all these instances where, voter ID laws were struck down because they're targeting, or they appear to be targeting minority communities. So if we can pass ID laws, give people IDs, require them to show up with it, or require other, points of identification, fine. But it also brings me to the argument about almost like gun control, right? Voting is our right. Having a gun is your right. It just seems that conservatives get a little uppity when you talk about restricting guns, but if you talk about requiring something that most people have to vote, then they're fine with it, because I feel as though it doesn't affect the large conservative base.
Right? You realize I'm a gun owner, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, just checking. Just checking.
No, I know a lot of gun owners. Don't worry. I'm just saying.
Waters you may be wading.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What did you say?
I wanted to make sure you understood what shark-infested waters you could be wading into.
No, I don't disagree with owning a gun, and I don't disagree with, having your gun or the Second Amendment. I just think that there needs to be, common sense laws around it. But it seems as though when we talk about restricting, or not restricting, but enacting those gun laws, conservatives tend to get upset.
What laws are you discussing? Because let me tell you right now, there is no online loophole. If I was to go online and purchase a firearm, it would be sent to my local federally licensed firearm dealer, and I would have to go there, pay them a fee to complete my background check, and then I would be given said firearm. It is what
the type of laws that I want are magazine and clip limits. Maybe like, I think it was like 7 bullets.
Can I correct you on something here?
Yeah.
Clips belong on paper, ties, and hair. Magazines are for guns.
Yeah. So I said magazine or clip or whatever it's called. The limits to 7 bullets, because in all reality, I don't think that's necessary to have 20 bullets coming out of your gun every time you pull your trigger, or whatever bullet comes out every time you pull it. Also, universal background checks, I think, would be a good idea.
Define universal background checks. Already I have to pass an FBI, state, and local background check. What else?
If we look at various states, so let's take New Jersey for an example, and let's take Texas for an example. When you compare the two per capita, you're going to see more gun violence coming out of the state that, well, obviously has more guns in it. So I'm not saying restrict guns. I'm just saying let's try more or less to make sure that you pass several psychological checks. Let's make sure that you pass yearly checks, because having a gun is a serious thing, and I don't think it's something that we should just say, oh, you got it, all right, see you later, just once you pass the test. It should be a continual thing. Like in New Jersey, I believe you have to go once every year, once every 2 years for almost like a checkup on how well you can use your gun. President Obama actually gave a very interesting town hall maybe like a year ago where he talked about gun control. And somebody asked him a question, why do you feel the need, if you have a, what was it? It was like, if you have a drunk driver, you take away their license. You don't take away the license of everybody. So why is that your policy with gun control? More or less, that was the question. And he...
I just pulled out my concealed carry permit. Okay. It was issued in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I had to prove my proficiency with a handgun to get my concealed carry. With a state approved for the state that I have my concealed carry in. My concealed carry expires in 2021. I will have to go back and again prove my proficiency with said firearm again in 2021.
Well, what state are you from, though? It's not like that in every state.
For concealed carry, it is. I said concealed carry.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yes, I'm looking at my concealed carry law. And included in that class are the state laws, the training, and all the other things that go along with it. The first thing we discussed in that class was firearm safety. Now, I have some rules personal rules. I believe in being what I call a responsible gun owner. 1, there is no point in me owning a firearm if I'm not proficient with it. It is for self-defense. And given the fact that I have a concealed carry, you can guess why I feel like I need to own a firearm. Self-defense. Can we agree on that?
Sure.
okay, that I feel for whatever reasons in my personal life that I need to have the right to a concealed carry. So I went the extra step, went through the extra checks, which included a second background check from the State Bureau of Investigations from the state I received my concealed carry permit in. Yes, another background check on top of the one that it took me to purchase the firearm. Had to go through another one, had to provide photo ID, fingerprints, sworn statements, and all kinds of other information. Right on my concealed carry permit, there is a photo, there is a license number, a photo, a date issued, the county it was issued from, my birth date, my gender, my race, my height, my weight, and my eyes. Of course, along with the address for the state that I received it in. And then on the back, it tells under what section of the law it was issued under. Again, the license number. And it says authorized pistol. And it lists 3 different types of pistols because this state, you can get different types of licenses. I'm authorized either a semi-automatic, a revolver, or a Derringer. And if I have my firearm on me, I must have this card if I am carrying. All right, so I, first of all, must prove my proficiency every so many years. I must undergo these background checks again every so many years. Now, if I didn't want the concealed carry, it would have been the initial background check, and yes, it would have been over. As far as magazine capacity, personal opinion here, the magazines I use in my Glock, and yes, I have a Glock, they hold 15 rounds. I have, and this is something I don't remember if I have admitted on the air or not before, but I will mention it here. I have fired a firearm in self-defense. I used to live in a very remote location in another state from where I am now, and it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting up at my kitchen table. It was dark, and my friend was sleeping down the hall towards my left. I was in the kitchen, which is kind of out of the way, and the other hall off to the right. I knew there was no one at that end of the house. You with me so far? Mm-hmm. I happened to be cleaning firearms because I'd taken my girlfriend to the range that day because she'd never shot a handgun, and she'd always wanted to do so. She didn't want to own one, but she wanted to shoot one and see what it was like. So I'd taken her to the range. So my rule, you shoot it, you clean it. So everybody else had gone to bed. I was the only one awake. The only light on in the house was the lighted magnifying mirror. The light on the magnifying lens I was using to clean the firearms. We'd shot a number of them. I had already cleaned my self-defense weapon, my Glock, and reloaded it and chambered around. Now, they always say don't have a loaded weapon when you clean. So before anybody who's a gun safety person jumps on me, I always mark it and place it on a red piece of cloth so that it is distinct from everything else. That is the only one I reload, and it is on that red piece of cloth when it is loaded, so I know it's hot. So then about 20, 30 minutes later, I hear glass breaking to my right. I am 30 minutes from the nearest grocery store, 45 minutes from the police department. Did I mention rural area?
Yes.
So I pick up the handgun, and I look down the hall to the right. I see a figure, dark, and a little bit of ambient light blasts off something shiny in his right hand. Do you think I stopped to ask him who he was and what he was doing in my house?
No, absolutely not.
That magazine, at the time, was a 15-round magazine. I fired 6 shots, center core mass, before he hit the ground. At that point, of course, everybody in the house was wide awake. And lights were being turned on and the police were being called. It turns out he had a knife, not a gun. There were no charges filed against me due to the Castle Doctrine in the state I lived in. The police did come out and do an investigation. But I have fired a firearm in self-defense, and I was grateful. What if it had been 2 guys? Okay, you take those 6 bullets. Now I need 12. So that's where your 7-round capacity may not be sufficient. What if it had been multiple people that had come into my home unwanted in the middle of the night?
I mean, what I will say is that in a large number of cases, so in 68% of murders in this country, 68% were committed with a crime. 68% of crimes were committed with a firearm. There is clearly a problem, and I can't really attest much to your personal anecdote, but what I can say is that we have a big problem when compared to other countries when it comes to our fire. We also have the most firearms. We have more firearms than population. But if people like to compare us to Israel and Sweden, those countries also require mandatory service. We do not. Our gun training is a lot less than theirs. They also undergo, I think it's like a year of psychological testing in Sweden, I remember reading. In Israel, again, 2 or 3 years of mandatory service. So for those people, fine. I understand why you might have a gun, why you can carry a gun and whatnot. In our country, it seems to be far easier than that. We don't have to go through such service. Now, I don't want to take away anybody's guns. I don't think that I should take away your guns because whatever. I think that you are a responsible gun owner from what it sounds. But what I will say is that if we do not limit the amount of bullets in a gun, then I keep looking at these mass shootings and thinking how quickly they can happen. And in that second or a couple seconds where someone's reloading their gun, I imagine that could be an opening for help. And
hey, Bryce, I will admit right up front, I've never been in an active shooter situation.
Mm-hmm.
However, the only thing that's going to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
They say that a lot.
And
I don't know.
And it happens to be true more often than it's wrong. But folks, I hate to cut you off, but I just realized because I haven't been watching the clock, we're about 8 minutes late for a break, so we got to take a break real quick.
All right, no problem.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network. Radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Complex problems. But perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve.
All right, folks, and we are back. We had to take a kind of a late break. We are seriously into about the last segment of the show here. I'm going to turn things back over to Bryce and Miss Jess so they can continue their conversation while I go figure out which one of my children is currently using my internet, because my latency just went to crap. I'll be right back. You guys have fun.
All right. So, do you want to keep talking about gun control? You want to talk about the election? What do you want to talk about?
All right. As far as gun control, first of all, I've got to bring up Chicago.
Yeah.
It is a city where I actually know people have moved away from because of the restrictive gun laws in Chicago. How do you explain the high level of you're saying gun laws are the problem? First of all, a criminal by definition, they are causing a problem. They are already ignoring the laws. So you think having more restrictive laws in a place, I'm going to use Chicago as an example, has more gun violence than most, compared to the amount of gun violence you see in a place such as Texas or Oklahoma, where there is not only lots of guns, there is concealed carry and open carry.
Well,
personally, I've got to say I don't agree with open carry because, no offense, I don't want the world to know I'm armed.
Yeah.
Want a surprise?
Yeah, no, that's not a surprise. But the first thing I want to address there is I'm from right outside New York City. I go to New York City about once a week, once every 2 weeks. It's literally a 5-minute trip over the bridge for me. And what I can say is New York City has some of the strictest gun laws. New York City's crime rate has been falling drastically over the past couple of years since Bloomberg left. During Bloomberg's term and now in de Blasio's term, crime has continued to drop. I do not think the correlation between an increase in crime and gun violence is contributed or can correlate to gun control in the state. In addition to that, you
said that we need more gun laws to control gun violence. Didn't you say that?
No. What I want to say is that I think in order to stop the problems in Chicago, I think actually, you really want to know what those problems are. I think they're attributed to economic problems as well as lack of law enforcement. So I would say that we need to step up law enforcement. They need to step up economic programs, and that will slow down crime. Gun control is probably necessary so you can keep those people off the streets. But if you look at New York City, that also has very strong gun control. Then gun crime with a higher population is nowhere near what it is in Chicago. So I do not necessarily agree with the notion that gun control is causing gun crime. That just doesn't make sense to me. Also, I think you have a larger gang presence in Chicago than you do in other cities in the country.
You do, and I will agree with you. It is related to economic issues because many underprivileged minorities, they want a sense of belonging. They want to feel they're part of something bigger than themselves. And the gangs, unlike the military, will start recruiting them at the ages of 10 and 11. The military won't even talk to you until you're at least 14 or 15. Now, back to your thing about it's easier to join the military than it is to register to vote. That's because the military actively seeks people out. Because less than 1% of the American population wears the uniform. And trust me, I'm surrounded by that 1% on a daily basis.
Well, then all I want is it to be as active of a search as it is to recruit people for the armed forces, as it is to register people to vote. And I really wish that states and municipalities would step up their game in, recruiting unregistered voters, because while our system, I think, is in need of repair, it cannot be repaired if people cannot even vote. And I think, honestly, and I know that I will catch some flack for this, but national voting laws, I think, would be probably the way to go, and relieving states of necessarily their duties to control voting, I think might not be such a bad idea. Because you look at some state, and I'm not saying completely, but I'm saying that I think the federal government should take a bigger role in controlling voting, because it just seems as though when states are in control of this, some abuse it, some don't, and it just seems to be safer, but I don't know.
First of all, I don't agree with taking away states' rights. And according to the Constitution, voting is not one of the things the federal government is charged with. So therefore, if it's not an enumerated power, it is delegated to the state. I do agree that there should be that maybe all states should have the motor voter thing, where if you get a driver's license, you can register to vote just by ticking a checkbox. However, I also think the voter registration in each state needs to be tied into the Social Security Death Index, because I don't think dead people should be voting.
I would agree with that, and there's not really much to disagree with there. But what I will say is that I don't think. I mean, I'm sure we could find stories of dead people voting, but I don't think it's as big of a problem. But I will agree with you on that. But just to keep it safe, I would tie it in with the Social Security death toll.
I say tie it into both the driver's license / photo ID and the Social Security Death Index.
Or you could just make it even simpler and just tie it into your Social Security, statement or whatever it would be, or certificate, where your birth certificate is given. So when you turn 18, you're automatically registered, and when you die, the state accounts for that, and you're automatically unregistered. But yeah, either I guess worked. But I definitely want people. One thing I will push for when I run for office is that people get automatically registered by the time they turn 18, because I think that is absolutely necessary. But in the last, yeah.
You mentioned you recently registered for Selective Service, and I say thank you for that because a lot of males do try and dodge it.
Oh, well, that's a $2.5 million fine, and I don't have $2.5 million, so...
Well, I still know a lot of men who have not registered for Selective Service, so I say thank you for that. Also, I'd like to see maybe having it tied into Selective Service. That would at least hit 50% of the population. And the women could even grab the same postcard type form you had to fill out for Selective Service and register to vote just by filling it out. Even though you registered for the Selective Service, it would be a second way of registering to vote.
You see, in my state, what I actually found interesting is I didn't even have to fill out anything. It was just they just send you a postcard, make sure everything here is good, and if not, mail in the correct information. Apparently, what you said they should do for voting with driver's license, they did for Selective Service. With my driver's license. So when I got that, I was automatically put into the system for that, and they mailed it to me a couple of weeks ago. Said, "Is everything here correct?" And then you say yes or no, and by saying yes, you just don't say anything, and by saying no, you have to mail in something. So, I find that very interesting how they do that.
Well, if they can do it for Selective Service, I think they could do it with state ID / voter registration. By the time you turn 18, I think everybody should have a photo ID.
Well, I think
government or federal issued photo ID. Now,
Jess, isn't this nice though? We've found some common ground here. It seems.
We have. Now, I will say one thing. I don't want the federal government taking over and issuing federal photo IDs to everybody. I have a federal issued photo ID because I'm a military spouse. Just like my husband, who wears the uniform, has a federal government issued photo ID because of his service. I do not want the federal government just randomly deciding we need to take over issuing of all IDs.
No, and I didn't say that, and I would agree with you there. I think perhaps there could be a federal law that mandates, every state must give a free photo ID that is good for voting, something of that nature. If you're going to require voter ID laws, then you have to provide a free ID that is valid at the polling location.
I actually can agree with that. And there are states that have attempted to do that, and their laws were still struck down, even though they were giving the free photo ID and even a free birth certificate if you didn't have it because you needed the birth certificate to get the photo ID. And still, these laws were struck down as discriminatory. I'd like to know how, if the state is giving you not only your birth certificate for free, but your photo ID that is valid at the polling place for free, and even using mobile vans to go out into harder to reach communities, how that is discriminatory.
Well, I personally don't know of the cases where it was like that, but I'm sure there may have been if they were deemed discriminatory. Well, if they were deemed discriminatory, then I'm sure a judge with higher legal knowledge than us knew what they were talking about, and I don't know the specific case, so I can't really make a comment on it, but I will say that from reading portions of laws like the ones in North Carolina when that whole thing got struck down, you could see how certain IDs are required, certain IDs are not. And I think it's definitely an issue that needs to be handled in this country immediately, actually. If we want to have a strong democratic process, then everybody needs to have equal access to the polls. And it seems as though, you can look easily throughout our history. It just has not been that way. But you know what? Now we can right wrongs and fix that. But
I've got to say, in Wisconsin, they had a voter ID that had a voter ID law that ran into issues, and a federal judge this week this is from this article. Actually, is a relatively recent article. It was posted October 14th. And it's on a local Fox in Milwaukee. There was a 2-day hearing ended this week with neither the state laws nor laws critics getting everything they wanted. The law is in effect, although anyone can get a valid ID without even proving who they are. Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, I really don't know much about that, so I can't speak as an expert on that or even anything on that.
The judge did order the state to give people a valid ID even if they lacked the needed documents. And
I mean, but again, let's look at what were the needed documents. Were the needed documents documents? That was it? Because you said documents as if it was plural. So
far, I've seen a birth certificate in the list. I'm looking to see if there's anything else.
Well, again, because I don't know, then I can't really make a comment on it. But what I will say is that it appears, with student IDs, I can understand why maybe some states may be hesitant to take them. But if you're going to a state university, and maybe you can just add date of birth on it, and then it could become valid. Or look at the graduation year, maybe then it would become valid. But to say,
I go against that because I actually happen to know a 14-year-old, or no, a 12-year-old who's registered at a university seeking a degree because she happens to be one of those strangely exceptional characteristics. So by the time she graduates, she'll just be 16.
So then just put her date of birth on it. If you just put date of birth on your student ID, every student gets an ID. Look at that.
Why student ID should be accepted. I'm sorry. I want it to be a government-controlled photo ID.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you go to a state university, then it is government-controlled, and they can control what they put on it. So
it's easier to get a university ID than it is to get a driver's license or a state-issued photo ID that's at a center like the DMV.
All right, sure. In the last 5 minutes, I'm just curious, just to wind things down a little bit. Did you hear about Ken Bone?
No, I didn't. Care to tell me?
Yeah, sure. So Ken Bone was the guy who wore a red sweater and a white shirt and had the mustache, a little chubby guy with glasses, who was at the last presidential debate and asked some question about, I think it was like energy or something, and he wanted to know, he was an independent voter, and the internet fell in love with him. And he was made into memes and into shirts, and I think he's going on the late night show and all these things he was talking about on the Daily Show, talked about everywhere. Now, it turns out he was asked to do one of those Reddits where people can talk to you on Reddit. And apparently, he used the same name he used for a previous conversation on Reddit where he was analyzing Jennifer Lawrence's nude leaked photos. And he was talking about the shooting death of Trayvon Martin in an interesting way. But he had a colorful past in things that he talked about. So he went from being this, cute Ken Bone to, his name, they put hashtag BoneZone, was trending on Twitter for like a day. But now it appears he is less interesting of a person and more of a disgusting human being. If you read, I don't think Rick would want me to read what he said on air, so I will not. Everybody can go read for themselves Ken Bone's Reddit comments, but they are funny when you think about how much people loved him. Just to say, on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, he was saying how much he loves this guy, how cute he is, and now he is not. I hope he still doesn't love this guy because he's a little weird. But yeah, so I thought that would be a funny story to share.
Well, I will say this: whatever his comments were, and I haven't read them. As you know, my normal beat is not U.S. politics. It is everything else in the world. Care to talk about Turkey's politics? I can fill you in on those. Or North Korea's politics. I'll be happy to discuss those. Some days they make more sense than ours.
Well, can I just ask you, in the last 3 minutes we got here, Donald Trump's comments about you can grab them by the you-know-what. To me, that sounded like sexual assault. And that's what I... Personally, every time I heard someone say that was locker room talk, I do not believe that was locker room talk. But what were your thoughts on that?
First of all, you have to realize I am surrounded by largely males. I do live on a U.S. military base. I'm surrounded by more guys than women. I have sometimes a house full of people. Sometimes I'll have 6, 8, 10 military members over here, and I'm the only female in sight. Sometimes I do hear raunchy talk. Talking about it is one thing, doing it is another. Now, as far as these accusations against Trump, I have one question for these women. Why didn't you bring it out earlier?
Well, people are not always, and I don't think that's necessarily the right question. That's because people can feel. One person said, "Oh, we felt as though it was our fault." Now that we see all this is coming out, we feel like it is time, and we can, and we are empowered to come out. I do not believe that all these the chances of all these women that are lying and this is coordinated. I don't believe that. I believe that there is merit to what these women are saying. To the extent I do not know, because everybody deserves their day in court. You're innocent until proven guilty, but the likelihood of all these women being liars to a full extent, I don't believe that could be true. But when I hear Donald Trump's comments, it just, to me, it was really disgusting. And while you said that you've heard raunchy talk, I mean, so have I. I'm in college right now. Believe me, if I'm going to hear raunchy people speak, I hear it now. But nobody says or suggests what he did. To the extent that he did,
it may have been a bit in the extreme. However, talking about it is one thing, doing it is another. And
but the thing is, he was doing it. I mean, but like,
proof of that. Do you have proof of that? Other than the fact these women have come out, and this has not been proven judicial fact. So far, it's a bunch of hearsay. And I'm going to say that everybody's entitled to their First Amendment rights. And just like the rape article that went viral in Rolling Stone was proven a couple years later false.
Well, other than the women coming forward, other than previous stories, no, I cannot attest factually, but he has not given any facts that he promised he would give to say that it was not true. But it seems as though we'll have to save this one for another time because it is 11 o'clock. So,
Jess is facing us off.
So, Jess, why don't we say where people can find us, because you're not usually on the show. So why don't you give a little shout out to yourself?
All right, I am on Twitter at Jesse's POV. I'm on Facebook at Jesse's POV. I've also got a website, jessespov.com. And if you're interested in books and writing, jessescoffeeshop.com, on which Jesse's Coffee Shop I will be hosting a special NaNoWriMo international chat room. No, I'm not a writer, folks. I occasionally participate in Nano, never won, never really care to. But if you want to know more about that, please hit up jessescoffeeshop.com. And I will be airing some stuff on that later today during my regularly scheduled block of time.
All right, folks, and I'm Bryce Robbins, host of Opinion Nation. Coming up next is an amazing episode I did. I recorded it this week to play for you for the first time today with a presidential candidate and his vice presidential candidate. Their names are Frank Atwood and Blake Huber, and they are running for the Approval Voting Party. Again, they are not running, similar to Russell Haster, they're not running for your vote. They're running to give you a message. And it is an interesting episode. And if you like talking about comparative politics and voting and election systems, this is an interesting episode to hear. Also, next week, I have a great episode coming for you. Darrell Castle, the presidential candidate of the Constitutional Party, the guy who Glenn Beck is supposedly endorsing or voting for. He will be joining me in a discussion about his run for the presidency. The week after that, well, it's looking like we have the Socialist Party presidential candidate, and then we may have another special independent. Evan McMullen might be coming on the program. So
Vermin Supreme.
I'm sorry? Oh, Vermin Supreme. Definitely. So, folks, stay tuned for the next couple weeks because we have a lot of good shows with a lot of presidential candidates coming up to complete our series before November 8th. If you want to find me, I'm on Facebook, Bryce Robbins, or on Twitter at RobbinsBryce. Definitely check us out. Listen to Opinion Nation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until then, I'm guessing we're out. So have a good one, folks. This is Finding Common Ground. See you next, coming right up on Opinion Nation.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, but perhaps there is a simple answer, not an easy answer.